Hello, everyone. This is a show called Real Talk with Martha Novak, and guess who I am? I'm Martha Novak, and we're going to talk about relationships. We're in a series right now. One episode, I think, stands alone with in the body of all of them, um, and we're talking about all sorts of components of relationships. We're going to talk about some pretty important things today in the body of the piece. I'm so glad that you're with us. Thank you so much for supporting this show so much and getting the word out on social media. I know you're doing that because we're getting certainly a lot of hits on watching this show, and we thank you so much for that. So please keep it going because we're really trying to increase our community here. It is cold outside, and my nose is running, and there's not a piece of Kleenex to be had. Why is it that cold weather makes your nose run? I don't know, but there's nothing that I can disguise here on Facebook Live anyway. Hi, good morning. Happy Sunday to you, Kat. For those of you that are listening on Blog Talk Radio, because I'm doing the radio show and we are televising it over Facebook Live all over the world, I appreciate so much all of you all listening and my dear friends writing in and saying, hey, we're part of this community and we're here and hello and happy Sunday. And happy Sunday to you too, Kat. Let's do a quick prayer. I want to get nice and centered. This is an important show today and I want to do it justice. So let me get all together. Let's pray together. Dear God, who is all there is, you who are all we are and all everything is in this world, we thank you so much. As we open ourselves to see, hear, sense, and know what you would have us do, as we search for the truth with a large T that's in your enlightenment inside each and every one of us. We are so grateful for what has brought us here today, even though it might have been very hard and sometimes unpleasant. But it's opened in us the desire to know more about ourselves, and in that we find you. For you are all we are. We so appreciate the light and the dark, the good and the bad, the rich and the poor inside of us. All things exist here. We're trying to make our peace toward the self-acceptance of the whole and the desire to know what love really is in us and to indeed choose someone that we may give this to complete the loop and then receive. This is an ongoing process, dear God, and we make ourselves ready now, whether we are in relationship or not. And we thank you so much, for we all are in relationship with ourselves. And for that, we make ourselves ready. And that's probably the most important thing of all. Thank you so much, dear God, for all of this. We say this prayer in your name, in the name of the ascended masters, our love-centered guides and friends, and in the name of each and every person listening to the show. We now declare we know nothing, for it is the you in us and in all things that know it all, and we open to that part. Thank you, and so it is. Dear hearts, let us begin. All right, I found an interesting article. I have great exception to the title. I'm not sure who this was written by. Hang on just a minute. I should always write these things down. Okay, this was written by a woman named Sylvia Smith. She's a writer at marriage.com. Okay, well, that's wonderful. She's written an article. That's a very good article, but as I said, I take great exception to the title. The title that she gave it was 8 Relationships, Why Women Complain So Much. Now, I've been doing this a really, really long time, okay? What we do here is a form of energy psychology, And I can't tell you how long I've been doing this. I've been working with couples. I've been working with individuals forever. Now, I do want to say these are not women's complaints. Because they're not, I guess I find this article a little sexist. I know she's trying to say, here's why women are complaining. I am one, and that's lovely. But the truth is, these are complaints by everybody in relationship. They are. And I want us to approach it that way, because we won't learn anything if we are squaring off against any gender. That's ridiculous, okay? We're all in this together. How many times are we hearing that these days? But we are. And I think we better get these on the table. So I'm going to change this to 8 reasons why women and men complain. Okay? The first one is insecurity. She says, when someone, and I'm changing language here, when someone feels insecure, they automatically nag and complain, and they'll question their partner, possibly in a suspicious tone, and complain in an interrogative way. They complain about say, the partner not spending time with them. They might demand to know what the partner is busy with. And this is not men to women, women to men. I'm going to tell you right now, everybody across the board does it. And if you ever wonder why that is, or if that's true, talk to someone who is retired, whose partner has not retired, no matter what sex they are. This is just the way relationships go. Now, everyone is insecure from time to time. We might be trying something new, and everyone kind of has shaky knees, right? Well, you're trying something new. And you need a nice supportive team around you, and it helps to have one in your own home, of course. If you don't, you better be the one that's also cheering you on, right? I think that's real important. I know in my own life, I haven't always had a partner, and it's been a really important time in my life to develop my sense of self and what I really thought about myself. Certainly, if you're single, you're charged with having a relationship with you and finding those things out, and how to solidify that marvelous sense of self. Don't put it in concrete, because it's got to keep growing, but it's got to be there, right? And if you're in relationship, no time like now to do all that, and to continue to grow and strengthen those things throughout your life. Hopefully your partner will join you. And it's so interesting, because many times when I began working with somebody, they try to bring their partner along, right? Oh, please bring your partner along. Oh, yes, I'm going to leave them behind. I'm going to get so caught. All that is fantasy, because what happens, now many times partners join their partner in being here. And those are marvelous couples that I work with. We have so much fun these days, because they're aware of what they're doing. They're and they're just growing quickly and exponentially through all sorts of things, and having much better relationships. It's very exciting. But a lot of times partners don't join them. And you know what, though? With one person changing in the house, most of the time the other person changes, because this person that is becoming more loving and more of spirit, more of God, because we're all spiritual beings in physical form, don't forget that, is knowing how to do relationships really well, and that improves the relationship in general. I always think of it, you've heard me say this, as a pot of soup. Our relationship's a pot of soup. Well, if both people are putting rotten vegetables in it, that's not much of a soup. But even if one person decides to put healthy, wonderful, nourishing things in there. It improves the soup. And a lot of times then the other person decides to improve the soup too. They may not have the words. They may not do it the same way, but they'll try. And it's so interesting because when I'm working with whatever my client is in that relationship, they'll say, so-and-so is changing. And they don't see at first the reason for the change is because God's moving through them in a more powerfully deep way and a more loving way. Hi. Yes, this is my job, Mark. Hello, darling. I'm so glad to talk with you today. I'm really glad that you listened. Thank you so much. You all, Mark is asking a good question. He said, is this your job? Is this what you do? Yeah, I'm an energy worker. I work with emotional things, with removing emotional blocks to the end of consciousness, you see. So if you want to go to my website, it is Martha Novak, NOVAK.com, and you can read all about it there. Okay, now that website's work in progress. All the commas aren't in place yet, but they're getting there. Oh, we have a call too. I'll get right to you. It's a 917 exchange. Okay, let me, as a matter of fact, stop right here before I go back into my list. So insecurity is the first thing. Let me just finish a little button on insecurity, and then I'll go to my caller. I think it's really important for all of us to work on ourselves. The way to improve a relationship is not both of you individual working on themselves and occasionally coming together. Because if the individuals haven't worked on themselves, it's almost impossible for us to reach any kind of consensus, compromise, negotiation. You don't even know what we're talking about. Not that this group would know because you all have been listening to the show, but people really don't. You know, when those people come to me, I had a couple come to me, was it last year or the year before? And one of my psychologist friends sent this couple to me. They were so hateful. They were incredibly hateful. I've never seen a couple because I usually work with people that, if not conscious, are certainly desiring to be more loving and conscious people, right? They know there's an answer there somewhere. These people were so cruel, so hateful. So I just knew these were not clients of mine. So I sent them on to a therapist that I know who could start them at the basics. But I truly, honestly thought there's no way these people are going to stay together because there is not a shred of intention to be truly more loving and get beyond themselves. Good morning, Sheila. I'm so happy to see you too. Thank you. So, guys, we have to have the intention to open ourselves up to be more loving people. If we can do that, all I need is the intention. And then we can sail through some of this. These old ego, child's mind issues that limit us. So you need to work on that insecurity. All of us do. You remember, I lectured several weeks ago on insecure attachment styles. Guys, certainly Google that, insecure attachment styles. They're explained very well on a man named Jeb, J-E-B, Kinnison, Kinnison. He has a website. And if you will put in insecure attachment styles, secure attachment styles, that's not by any means the only thing that's going to help you in a relationship. But that and love languages and 1,000 other things will help you that we're trying to talk about on the show. But do some research on your own, please. And insecurity is something that we very much need to tackle individually. Let's go to our caller. It's a 917 exchange. And let's see what we've got here. And I hope we can bring this person through. Hello. Hi, this is Martha. To whom am I speaking?
Hi, happy birthday, Tina.
Who is this?
My name is Tina.
Tina. We've talked before, haven't we, Tina?
Yes. Oh, it's been quite some time though.
Yes, I remember you. I remember your energy. You're such a sweet person. Well, how are you, Tina?
I'm fine. I would like to ask about my relationship with my boyfriend Todd.
Okay, with Todd. All right. Todd's kind of lagging behind, isn't he? Am I right about that? You're giggling, so I would imagine. She wanted to, guys, if you all can't hear, sometimes on the radio we can't hear what's coming through my landline. She was asking about her relationship with a boyfriend named Todd, and what I just picked up was Todd was lagging behind, and she's giggling. So I don't know what that means. You want to tell me, Tina, what that means?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I just think what I am, and the impression that I'm getting right now is he's a very nice man, but he is much more emotionally immature than you, and he's just, not as aware of commitment and what it takes to commit and how to commit, and he's got to know himself better. And I think that's why you're getting a little, if not impatient, you feel a little unsettled about all this. So I don't know what to say about this. It's going to be up to Todd whether he decides to wake up or not. And certainly we want you to look after yourself in all of this. You understand?
Yes.
Okay. You have any other question about this?
No, just I'm patient. It's fine. I know that good things, come to those who wait. So it's fine. He's a really good guy. Like you said, I just want to see, do you see where it's going? I understand how he's going, but.
Do I see where he's going? Now, Tina, this is one person's opinion, but I'm telling you from the best I can tell you, okay? You said, first of all, right now, I don't see him going anywhere. That doesn't mean he's not going to go somewhere, because everybody should be evolving. But he's just very flat. There's no growth. There's no ambition. There's no, let's get this thing going. I don't see any of that kind of initiative there. That doesn't mean that sometimes it's not going to be turned on. It's just certainly not there right now, and that's what I'm tuning into. Okay. That said, you said good things come to those who wait. I agree and I don't agree with that phrase. And I'm going to say to you, darling, who obviously has some consciousness, don't absorb some of these platitudes without thinking them through. Because I'm all for being patient with people. But at one point, this is not going to be good for you anymore to wait if he doesn't wake up. So don't buy that platitude without the sensitivity to self. You understand? This is where knowing yourself comes in. This is where being secure within yourself comes in. All great relationships are relationships where each partner can come and can go. You should be able to leave him. I should be able to leave my husband. He should be able to leave me. And then we decide every moment to stay and to be more loving and to invest more in the relationship. You see? So two mature individuals have that knowledge that we can do that, but that we're not going anywhere. We really are committed to what we have, the person that we have chosen, and we've committed to working through these things. Now, darling, You do what you must do in relationship to who you are and your growth and what is good for you. So I'm going to say to everybody listening today, you think through these old adages, these old things. My father, for example, here's a little off the subject because I'm hitting some heavy things I want you to process, okay? I had a dear father, and he worked hard for his money all his life. And whenever he gave me anything, whether it was a bicycle or a doll, he would always say to me, with ownership comes responsibility. Now, I took that so to heart that I didn't enjoy any of my toys for a long time. And it was in my 20s when I really said to myself, do I really want to believe that? Because I get to, as a creative individual, destroy what I want and create what I want. I don't have to buy with ownership comes responsibility, except to the extent of my highest self that I have an obligation that is actually not a burden, but a privilege to take care of the things that I love. It took me a trajectory of growth to get there. Now, so I say to you, coming back to you, Tina, we've got to know what you mean by that. You've got to know. I don't need to know, but you've got to know. By tuning into yourself, by knowing yourself better, when's enough? And I'm not saying there will ever be that, because right now he's just in a holding pattern. Darling, you've given him everything he wants. He doesn't have to do anything. You've made it very easy for him. So I don't know what he's going to do in the future, because he doesn't know what he's going to do in the future. And therefore, you don't know. So you're going to have to wait and see. Sometimes there is a wait and see, but not at the expense of self. Do you understand? Tina, you there? Tina? You seem to still be on.
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
Okay, darling. Is there anything else?
It's about my children.
Uh-huh.
My son and daughter. Yeah, whatever do you pick up on them?
You have a daughter? There are another couple of children around you. Who are they?
It's little nieces and nephews, but for the most part, just my son and daughter. I only have two.
You have two. When you said the word children, I saw three. I don't know why. Does Todd have a child? Who is this other child? Is that a niece or a nephew that you're particularly close to?
Yes, but I had three children.
Say that again?
Yes, I is the one with the children. I have two. Yes.
Okay, you have two, but he has three. Yeah, because that...
Yeah.
Okay. How do the children feel about all this?
Oh, they're fine. We're peaceful.
Okay, that's good. I don't know why that his children came to the fore before your children came to the fore. Energetically, I'm a little puzzled by that.
Oh no, I don't want to know about his children. I just want to know about my son and daughter. I rest on what you said about him, so that's fine.
Yes, I understand what you want. I'm questioning what I got, because I picked up on his kids more than I picked up on yours. Are they getting more attention?
From him, yes.
Okay. There seems to be an equality in the home in terms of the kids. You make sure that both of you are giving to all 5 children. You understand?
Yes.
It feels like yours are being, I guess, left out a little bit energetically. At least that's what it feels like. Can you understand that?
Yes, I'm in school for my
Say that again?
Ooh, I'm sorry, I'm sneezing. I'm in school for my
Oh,
doctorate. I'm in school for my doctorate. I'm very focused on school.
that's perfectly fine, darling. Well, I hope you're okay. I know about sneezing. We've got lots of pollen up here this time of year, and it's cold to boot, and my nose runs all the time. So I apologize to everybody who's watching me on Facebook Live. Um, the Yeah, that's what I'm picking up right now. I think that you and Todd, if you're going to try to make this a go, need to be fair to everybody, need to be kind to everybody, that nobody gets to be left out. And it just feels like there's more energy going into his three than are going into your two. Um, don't don't you so focus on him that you neglect your two. You understand?
I said, no, I said I'm more focused on school. That's why I said good things come to those who wait. That's not what I'm doing. I'm focusing more on school than anything.
I understand that you're focusing more on school than anything. That's the problem. The kids are being left out. That's the reason I saw his family more than yours. So you're going to have to make a little more effort to invest in your own children. Okay? I'm not criticizing you, darling. I'm just saying there's an imbalance that's going on energetically, and that's what I was picking up.
Well, that's why I asked you about my children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to talk about Todd anymore. I don't want to talk about Todd anymore. I understand what you said. I expect that. So I asked you about my son and daughter. What do they think?
Yes.
That's why I asked, because of my studies. I'm very clear on what I asked you.
You were very clear, and I understood you. And I am telling you what I got. Okay? So there it is. There was more energy going into Todd and the kids and into your schooling than there is going into your two. And I need you to rebalance that energy. That's what I'm saying to you. Okay?
So I just wanted to know what my son thought, specifically on my daughter.
Okay, they need more of your time and attention and love. Whether it's I think they need more quality time than length of time, because you don't have that, obviously. But there's a quality that's kind of being missed here. So refocus on that, okay? Because I think you are a very good mom. So go on back to that, okay? Just keep that in mind.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, sweetie. Take care now.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Here we go. Hello, Pat. Finally able to exhale this weekend. Yeah, cheers and stay safe to you too. And thank you guys for writing in. Y'all are so dear and so sweet. And I'm just so glad. And hello, Michelle. So glad to see you today too. All right. Going back to our list, we're talking about how many? We said 8 reasons why men and women complain in their relationships. The first one was insecurity, that they are insecure. We have to address that. And the second one is some people want to hurt. Some people want to hurt others. Yes. Some people have a habit of holding grudges, you see. And then they turn to revenge and avenging, right? And they will complain and nag as a weapon. Guys, if you're going to have great relationships, there can't be any weapons in your house. I'm not talking literally, I am talking metaphorically. You can't have weapons like this in your house. You have to choose good times to talk, good times to relate. You can't then, if somebody can't talk to you at that time, go off and be hurt and then take revenge. These are games. In fact, everything that I'm going to mention is a game. Ladies and gentlemen, the ego child's mind doesn't know much about having successful relationships, you see. The higher self does. Now, you are both of these things. The whole point is for all of us who are interested in consciousness and becoming more loving people and more aware people and more conscious people and one day more enlightened people. we must challenge that ego child's mind to drop some of these things that adulterate our love. All right? Every single one of them are games we learn to play when we're young. It's so interesting. I've said for years that people will come to me and they'll say, I'm not a game player. And I'll say, good, that's great. What are the games you're not playing? Not one person can tell me. Well, let me tell you, the reason you can't tell me is that, first of all, you haven't named them. And second of all, you're not aware that almost everything the ego child's mind does is manipulating, trying to hurt, trying to control things, and a lot of other things, trying to blame and shame and all that kind of stuff. We're not able to be articulate about that because this is stuff we've done from our childhood. Well, what do you think the conscious journey is? It's waking up to what we used to do so we don't have to do that anymore. So we can go about creating the life we want. And remember what the two big issues are? You don't care about me and I never get what I want. And addressing those things so that we care about us. Not in a selfish way, not in a self-absorbed way, but in the right thing, because it's the right thing to do in consciousness, that we have to take care of ourselves first before we can take care of anybody else, right? And that there are mature ways for us to get what we want without controlling, manipulating, blaming, shaming, carrying on, and drama. We don't need the drama of relationships. A relationship is a working, living thing that is about the expression of the love of God. And it's so interesting because I go back to something Flannery O'Connor said. You know, she was a writer, and she wrote these really grotesque stories. They're very dark. The people are very screwed up. And she was a very staunch Roman Catholic. She had a peacock farm in Milledgeville, Georgia. She lived with her mother, and she was quite the interesting character as far as I was concerned. But one thing that just struck me years ago, I was interested in her particularly because my class was going down to see her. She would entertain English classes and things at her farm. And she got very ill. Well, she had cancer and it eventually killed her, but that was the time that she got it. Anyway, a writer asked her, how can you resolve writing about these grotesque characters, this dark stuff, and your strong Catholicism? And she said, well, sometimes you show the grace of God by showing the lack of it. Darling, your lives have been light and dark, selfish and not selfish, kind and cruel, for a reason. You see, all of it is part of the great jigsaw puzzle that is you, the great tapestry that is you. What consciousness does is it goes about pulling out the lesser threads in that tapestry, the ones that belong to the ego child's mind, so it can glow in God, so it can be a more pure form of the expression of self. That's what you all are doing as we investigate you, as we are listening to you. I can never invalidate the fact that the issues that we are talking about are mixed in with the good points too. I'm not going to take away those good points. They are of God. I couldn't if I tried. They're the real you. But the ego child's mind, the part of you that is fear-based and that still thinks like a child here and there, must be made aware. You must be made aware of it. You must be made aware of it on sometimes minute levels of what you are actually saying to yourself in the darkest hours of the middle of the night, when you are alone with your thoughts. You must acknowledge those things. You must surrender those things ultimately when you have decided to. That's the intention I'm talking about, and that's what makes you, one of the things that makes you heal. Okay? And who are you surrendering to? First of all, what are you surrendering? You're surrendering energy. You see, what you believe results in, it is energy, and it results in your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. So we have to know what those are. And we have to resolve them. They go dormant. They'll always be part of you as part of your wisdom. But they won't be driving the bus anymore. Something else will drive the bus, which is the innate loving kindness, the loving individual, the smart and discerning loving individual that you are. That's always been there. Just gets real confused when we have so much that's in the emotional body that is unresolved. It's still part of the ego child's mind. You've heard me use this image before. I'll remind you again. It's like a garden. If you have a beautiful garden, you have got to tend that garden. You know what you want to grow there. Vegetables, beautiful flowers, lovely trees, okay? Some wonderful exotic plants in there. But if you don't watch that garden, what happens? Weeds come up. It's part of nature. It's part of what should happen. And all we are doing in that image is we're rooting out the things that should not be there anymore for your highest self, for you to live in these wonderful areas of your potential. We're rooting those things out so that things that really belong there, the awe, the absolute awe of this marvelous system of God, deep compassion for ourselves and other people, forgiveness, joy, and they're about, I don't know, I think, 8 other things that have their natural placement there. If you all want to read more about this, I've gone into a lot of detail, probably too much, in the book, The Life You Want. You can get that on my website. Guys, that's what we're doing. You don't have to hold on to this whole egoic child's mind. It's a part of you that is the child. But you have to listen to it. Here's the irony. You have to acknowledge, hear it, be aware of it, acknowledge it, understand it, find the ramifications of it all, and surrender it. And we have to do that on the bottom line. Hello, Fabiola. So glad that you're here today. Thank you so much. You all are such dear people. Yes, I knew what you meant, my dear. I did indeed. When I'm in a hurry too, I misspell, so don't you worry. I think I know what you mean. It's very good to have you with us. Thank you, Sheila. Sheila, my friend Sheila says that the book is excellent. She's reading it now. I'm going to warn folks that it is hard to read because, when you're writing a book like that, you can either write to be popular or you can write to heal. And so there are a lot of things in that book that'll trigger you. You'll go, oh my gosh, that just slaps right against what my egoic child's mind. And a frog in my throat. And I think that's the power of this book. So just read it. I hope you will. And thank you for the acknowledgement, Sheila. That's very sweet. By the way, if you all are reading it, I think it's a real great thing. If you would go on Amazon and write a review of it, I think that would be terrific. I'd really like to hear. I see those things, and I'd really like to hear what you all are thinking about it. Now, let's talk about, Thank you. Thank you. Sheila says it is hard to read, many triggers, and it's very powerful. Yes, I think that it's designed. Let me tell you why that is healing. Okay. We have how do I want to say this? We have a structure in the ego child's mind. The structure is set up and certainly supported by these dogmatic positions, these beliefs that we have held since we were a kid, based on appearances. Are they the truth? Well, they were the truth back then, but without challenges, they're not necessarily the truth now, you see? So those things continue to, if you will, drive us, haunt us, and propel our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Thank you, Sheila. She says, but it's very healing. I'm right about that. Now, here's how this book does heal. Here's how being challenged like that does heal. You've heard me say that one of the universal laws, one of the real laws of healing of the universe, of bringing a new baby into your home or a new puppy into your home, is chaos to order. All change starts in chaos before it can move to new order. So what if we challenge the cells of your body? What if we agitate those cells by giving you some beliefs that are far beyond the ego child's mind? You get a little rattled. You absolutely do. And ultimately you go to a new order. So this is the power of being challenged like that. I rely on this, not only when I'm writing a book like that, but when I'm teaching a class. I was laughing with my class yesterday. I have an advanced class that I teach on Saturday afternoons. And I'm asking them some questions that you would never in a million years ever be asked in life. And we're making them answer. Wow, that's thought-provoking. That's bringing you face to face with what you believe that is counter to some of these ascended things. Well, they have to be driven up so we can see them, so we can challenge them before we can believe something else. You understand this. The chaos to order theory is a huge, it's not even a theory, it's just the way things happen. I mean, stars explode in the universe, don't they, before new things are formed there. You go into chaos when you bring a new baby into your house before you reach the new order and a good system whereby you can sleep. All change. You get a new job, chaos to order. You lose a job, chaos to order. You have an argument with your spouse, chaos to order. It's the way it is. The unfortunate thing is sometimes in relationships, we don't ever get into the new order because we are not comfortable with change, with growth, with opportunity, with arguing. We don't know how to get over these things. And that's really important, to know how to work through things with someone you love. You've heard me say this, I'm going to say it again. If you don't know how to work through things with someone you love, if you don't know how, first of all, if you don't know how to even label what you're feeling, you have to sweep those things under the rug. They never get addressed, they never get resolved. In 10, 20 years, you're going to have a nice pile under the rug in the middle of the room. Nobody's talking about it. If you even looked under that rug, nothing has a name anymore, because the only time you can name something like that is when it's happening or shortly thereafter. So you have to then divorce. You have to keep living a half life, avoiding the elephant in the room, which is under the rug. Or you can learn how to deal with emotion and with problems healthily. starting right then. Sweep all that out from under the rug and resolve to start it now. A healthy, happy relationship where you call things by name, where you each tell how you feel, where you work through things. I think that relationships are the number one way that we reveal our unlovingness. Isn't that something? Because every little misunderstanding, every little I don't like you doing it that way, I wish you'd do it this way, every little control mechanism and manipulation mechanism reveals that we are not that loving and not really taking the time in that moment to invest in real, wonderful, true, deep things. Everybody says they want intimacy. It's not just taking off your clothes and having sex. It's this. Don't you understand? It's this. Growing together through the years is revealing these pockets of selfishness and resolving them, and you're not finished with the argument. Here's a real tip. Until you have a deeper level of love and appreciation for yourself and your partner together. That's how to do it, kids. But you got to learn how. Because the ego child's mind feels threatened, and if you feel threatened, you've got certain coping mechanisms. Isolation, withdrawal, stonewalling, all the things that we talked about. Lying, having affairs, seeking distractions, not addressing things. Guys, come on. There are millions of ways we do it. Addictions of all sorts. There's one true way through everything, and that is just to open yourself and let's find out how to do it. We got some more learning to do, you see? You know, I think that is such a lovely thought. I want to put it on the table now. Everybody should be learning and growing and changing and developing and learning new things. You see, it keeps you interesting, doesn't it? There are some people that are so afraid or came from such a, I want to say shaming background. We're going to talk about shame at some point. That they never develop themselves. They live very small, you know. They try to make themselves very beautiful in one way or another, outwardly. They'll come to me and they'll say, I'm shallow, and I'll say, well, let's find out why. A lot of times shame is at the base of it. Their parents shamed them. They're still, you see, whatever your parents did, whether it was healthy or not, becomes part of what you do to yourself by the time you move out of your home. Kids think if they have a judgmental, critical parent that they need it because it's habitual. You never argued back from that, and maybe you did argue back from it. So then what we have is an overcompensation because you really believe them. Can go in a lot of different directions on the surface, but the base is still the same. Now we're going to talk about shame. I don't know whether we'll get to it today. We'll try. Let's go back to our list because I'm a little off the subject, but that's what these radio shows are for. We'll just go anywhere we need to go, right? I want to thank Sheila. Thank you, Sheila, for saying that about the book. I certainly wrote it to help. I hope it does. And it's really interesting. I want to just put one note on the table for you. I gave that book to my class, of course, when it came out. And it was interesting because I think everybody thought it was terrifically hard. They picked it up a year later and they could read it easily. So I want you to know, just read it. just underline what you are having a struggle with, or just understand it. You don't have to read it fast. In fact, you can, underline a certain passage and then watch that playing out all week long and decide whether you really want to have it or not. You see? And then read it a year later and see how you feel about it. Number 3, the reason men and women often complain is a reaction to being threatened. Sometimes complaint is a form of feeling defensive. It's interesting because I have my own definition of defensiveness. I think defensiveness most often is when you agree with the criticism being levied at you, okay, coming at you, and yet you're not yet ready to admit it to yourself. Still fighting it. Now, that may not be a true a truth that is coming to you, and yet we feel defensive anyway because we perceive it. It's all perception, ladies and gentlemen, as a threat. I can't tell you. Usually, I've had several clients through the years that I never tell clients, I want you to know what to do. I'll say, well, there are other choices here. Well, I can't make them, the client says. I say, okay, well, let's get you ready to think larger things. My job is not to say, you do this. You see, I'm never going to do that. However, as I'm trying to help, a lot of times a client will say, I hear you scolding me. And they're taking their mother or their father and they're putting it over me, who's never scolding. I'm not ever scolding you. But I'm doing my job to put ideas on the table, to challenge the ego child's mind, to give you other thoughts. And so it's a neat little system we have structurally where we think we are protecting ourselves and will move away from anyone we think reminds us of the critical mother and father, and that they are scolding us even when they're not, because it's perception. And that's why it's really important, if you're going to seek help, to get with somebody that you really think you can trust, because that may be triggered in you. And if it is, and you really know that this person has your best interest at heart and you can trust them, then you can go, I'm beginning to see that's my perception. That's not them. And that's a very important note to have, because you've got to have this kind of discernment, because as you know, there are plenty of people who will want to hurt you out there, who do not have your best interest at heart. They're just people that are driven by lesser motives, right? Okay. Back to point number 3. Complaints can be a defensiveness, a reaction to feeling threatened. Now, what consciousness study does is it challenges our perceptions. Is it a real threat or not? Is it a threat, or is it just that you don't know what to do when somebody disagrees with you? If it's that, my word, you can learn it. Okay? And if it's a real threat, a real one, okay, not a paranoid ideation of something, if it's a real one, there's a way to deal with that too from the highest self. You see? The highest self, this loving self I'm talking about, is no patsy. Of course not. There's a great deal of discernment in that experience. Okay. Number 4. The reason people complain is to get their own way. Now, one of the things I'm wanting you to notice as we talk about all of these right now is this. If your highest self loves you, cares about you, and knows that you're creating the life you want, every one of these things are in the ego child's mind, and as such represent an aspect of the abandonment of self. That's what I'm wanting you to hear. The authentic self is not insecure. It never tries to hurt. It doesn't have a reaction to being threatened because it's not threatened. It can work through anything. It's not trying to get its own way because it can have anything it wants. You see, it's only people who think they can't have what they want that ever try to get their own way. And you remember, there are only two issues in the world, and all of the issues in any culture of the world, anywhere, are falling under these two very big headings. Number one, you don't care about me. And number two, I never get what I want. What if you believe that you know who you are and that you care about you because it's the right thing to do, to know how to care for yourself? And what if you know that God is all you are and there is a perfect system of manifestation and creation? You can also read about that in the book. That works every single time. And that you are responsible for doing it. Where does that leave all these? To complain, to get my own way? Why would I do that? I don't need to get my own way. I need to love myself. There are occasions that I go to my husband and say, would you put your arm around me? Or here's what I need right now from you. I'm going to say something and you're going to say, you love me. We have those weak moments, guys. Once in a while. Not all the time. Not every day. You need to know how to care for yourself. You need to know how the system of God works. You've had other shows on that. So that's the reason I'm not going into it right now. And Lord knows there's chapters and chapters of how to create the life you want in the book. The book is laid out in 3 sections. One is your understanding of what God is to you and what consciousness is. Second part of the book is this process of creating. Third part of the book is what spiritual surrender really means. And I'm wanting you to realize there are a lot of little surrenders in our life that ultimately, if we're doing it right, lead to the big surrender of the egoic child's mind. You'll always have an ego. You won't always have the ego child's mind. That transmutes, that becomes part of the whole. The reason the book is laid out that way is you certainly need an understanding of where you're going and who God is in you. You then can start the manifestation process. It's going to be a little iffy and it'll come and go. But you can start it knowing that if you continue all of this practice, it is going to lead inevitably to a spiritual surrender which is going to change everything. It is the absolute knowledge that no matter what happens in life, God's right there with you. You absolutely know it. You know that everything is perfect. You know when something happens that goes against what you believe or what you think or what you feel or who you want to vote for or anything else, that everything's going to be all right. That it's just working out. And there's a peace truly beyond all understanding in all of you that you are working toward as you do this work. And that's why that book is laid out very specifically for you. I want you to know There's a reason for it. So, when you desire to get your own way, going back to point number 4, we can call that part of you the bully. Now, here is the thing. You can bully other people, of course, but you can bully yourself. You know all those shoulds I've challenged you about before? I should go to the gym. I should go for a walk. I should eat right. I should do this. I should do that. Shoulds are at the expense of self again, aren't they? Really? Oh, thank you. Sheila said that she's reading the book slowly and highlighting it and really taking her time. That's the way to do it. Okay? This is not a marathon read, is it, darling? I don't think anybody's going to get anything out of it. I think a paragraph a night, or not even a paragraph, a few lines a night, something that you can really digest, even, thinking about them for weeks. Why not? But the point is to think about them and observe what your life is like relative to some of the things that book says. That's all. I talked to my advanced class yesterday about bullies. Years ago, when I taught them at one point, we talked about the inner critic. Now we are just telling the truth. We don't have to couch it in any lovely way. Inner critic. You're a bully. You're a bully to yourself in some way. Let's put it on the table. This is the harshness to yourself sometimes that you don't even realize. We've got to stop being harsh to ourselves, because when you're harsh to yourself, when you say, I should do this, and we are then self-attacking because we're not going to do it, that's the bully. That's someone saying you're not enough. And then you say, I feel I'm not enough. And you're doing it every day, telling yourself you're not enough. Look at your shoulds. It's ridiculous. So what if you don't go to the gym? Maybe you don't need to go to the gym. Maybe there's something else you'd rather do that really opens you. We're not all made the same, and I can guarantee you we're not all made the same. I don't need as much exercise as somebody who really is an athlete. I just don't. But I need to think. I need to work with words. I need to work with emotion. I need to work with people. I need to do that. I wouldn't be Martha if I didn't. Okay. Look at the bully in you. Look at the bully. Don't be bullied by anybody else. This is somebody sometimes that nags and complains in order to, as we said, get their way. Okay. This is someone who is abandoning the self. Someone who doesn't realize they can have their way by asking for it. By asking for what they need. By knowing the needs that they can meet themselves and meeting them, and then asking for what is nice on top of that. And by the way, doing other people's services in return. Guys, are we takers or are we contributors? The answer to that question is we're both, but certainly heading toward being major contributors. What are you contributing? What you know, your wisdom. That's your contribution. That's what makes you unique. Nobody is a carbon copy of anybody else. You know, I've said for years, because I coach in business, so you've got a product. This is a product that a lot of people sell. Okay? And I'll say, what's your competitive advantage? And they have no idea. They say, well, a lot of people sell this. And I say, the competitive advantage, the only one is you. They're buying your confidence in this. Do you have confidence in this product? Well, yeah, I think it's a good product. Do you let yourself show? Do you let yourself talk about your experiences with it? How it's changed you, how it's changed your home, what you like, what you don't like? You're the competitive advantage no matter what, guys. Okay. Number 5 is misplaced fears. A lot of people live their lives in fear. They worry all the time. They're paranoid sometimes if it goes to an extreme. They have a worst case scenario attitude, right? Guys, these things must be addressed. A lot of times, these fears are not even yours. Isn't that amazing? A lot of times, if you had a very fearful parent or parents, that these adults, when you were a kid, should know. Here's a should. They should know. They've got to be right because they're the adults. And so we grow up being afraid when we've never had anything to be afraid of except the visceral feeling of our parents' fear that we now carry inside of us. I hear a lot of people come to me and say, I'm so afraid that we're carrying some of this. I'm so afraid of creating something bad in my life because as you think, so shall you be. Of course, that's what spiritual literature tells us. And I'll say, have you ever created anything just horrific? Well, no. Then the fear is enough to keep you stuck. All you're doing is allowing your fear, and it's serving you beautifully, isn't it? Because you're not doing anything. You're not going out there. You're limiting yourself because you're so afraid, because the fear is enough to keep you from exploring your potential. Oh, guys, everybody's afraid when they start something new. Everybody is. So what? Do it anyway. Do it anyway. I have to tell you about one of the bravest people I know. And I just thought this was the most charming thing I'd ever heard in my life, really. So here we are in the middle of COVID, right? But we recently had Halloween. I don't know when you'll be listening to the show. Some people are listening live. Thank you so much. But some people are listening to these archived shows. By the way, the shows are always archived, and they're on a variety of subjects on Facebook Live, Blog Talk Radio, and YouTube. Okay. So, my friend, she's in the advanced class yesterday, and she showed up this way yesterday. She had a business meeting, and in this meeting, this company is just a red-hot mess. They have way too much pressure on them. Everybody is kind of stepping on each other's toes. It's a bit of a mess right now. And she, who usually is very task-oriented, right, and puts her head down and butts through anything to get the work done and is often misunderstood because of it. She's a darling, nice person. Showed up for her Zoom meeting as she showed up for class yesterday, dressed as a combination of Joe Exotic and Joe Dirt. Mustache, heavy mustache, wig, the whole look, right? We just couldn't believe it. We laughed out loud. We thought it was the funniest thing in the world. We laughed and laughed and laughed. And she was so cute because she showed up for her Zoom meeting this way. And everybody just fell out. It was the best meeting they've ever had. She had more fun in it than she'd ever had before. And she was referred to, they kept saying things like, and of course this isn't her name, but they kept saying things like, well, what do you think, Joe? They kept referring to as Joe the whole time. It was adorable. And I said, well, what did you learn from this? She said, why are we so afraid? Why not just have fun? And she said before she was feeling very put upon, had a lot of misplaced fears, and she just decided she was going to go 180 degrees the opposite way. And look what she created. Something absolutely wonderful. Not only for herself, but for everybody else. Oh, yeah. Yes. I'm getting a note from Sheila right now. Sheila, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be great. Okay? Starting a new job is always stressful, darling. It's because of the chaos to order thing. And here's the thing, you know, my husband's quite the physicist, and when he first heard me lecture on these universal laws and chaos to order, like I talk about in the book you're reading, he said, you should tell everybody that it takes a lot of energy to go from chaos to order. It does in physics, and it does in life. So our darling Sheila is starting a new job. I will ask all of you to hold her in your prayers this week. Sheila, it's going to be fine. Just go in and learn everything you can. Be in a good attitude, and I think you'll just sail. Okay? And I know it is stressful, sweetheart, but it's not possible for people not to like you, especially if you are in your God-centered self. You make sure that you get there and you're transcending the ego child's mind, particularly, by the way, in about 2 to 3 months. Because in about 2 to 3 months, my darling, you're welcome, sweetie. In about 2 to 3 months, everybody in the workplace becomes the original, the family of origin. You watch that. Don't make somebody your sister. Don't make somebody the father, okay? No, see them as who they are. Keep all that out of the workplace, okay? You're going to be fine. Congratulations, too, by the way. Concerning misplaced fears that we're talking about right now, I want to say that one of the ways to fix this, ways to fix everything, is having something to do. I am back to the point that all of us need to be interested in something, guys. If you've been depressed for a long time, though, the sheer act of the suppression of emotion that we do to see, depression is often the repository for emotion we don't want to get to, and that emotion needs to be resolved, because not only will it get rid of depression, but all of a sudden we're going to see our preferences in what we want to do in life. And it's important to learn something new. I've never written fiction before. I've always written these things. I've enjoyed myself thoroughly writing what I write and talking about what I do and doing private sessions. I learn something every day. How fun is that? However, I started over from scratch. I thought, why not try teaching some spiritual principles through fiction writing? I'm a great storyteller. I really love stories. I don't mean I'm a great storyteller. I mean, I really love that bit. And in that, I adore it, whether somebody else is telling the story or I am. I love that. Why not? Why not know nothing for a while and learn something? Why not? Makes us interesting, makes us fun, gives us something to talk about. Certainly, my husband is not particularly interested in this, but he sure does love me. And he doesn't mind when I'm talking all about this. And he listens because I'm excited. And that is so loving, isn't it? And I try to do the same for him. Guys, get to work. It will help your misplaced fears, because what I've noticed for years is people will focus on what their partners are doing wrong if they don't have something that they're interested in life. Go on and learn something. Take a class in this COVID time, online, take a class, learn a language, do something. Do something beyond yourself. Good. Number 6. People who complain are complaining because of extreme expectations. Personally, I don't think you ought to have expectations at all. I think expectations get us in trouble. We should not assume that tomorrow is going to be the same as today. We should allow and be flexible enough to go, ooh, today's not turning out that way. Okay, we'll go with the way it's turning out. You have to be able to be adaptable and changeable to have a good relationship. It's wonderful not to expect your partner to answer a certain way, to expect your partner to be a certain way. You see? You see. Problem with expectations is they often run into fantasy. We'll have a way, and we'll have something in our minds of the way it's going to be and the way we want it to be. Now, guys, everybody fantasizes. All men and all women fantasize. That's what a child does. And that's wonderful, because if you had a hard home, we fantasize to help us stay alive and put one foot in front of the other. We had not only a real mother and father that may have been difficult. We have a fantasy mother and father, and a fantasy us, and a fantasy idea of the family, and a fantasy God, and a fantasy everything. Those fantasies have got to go, because you cannot create from fantasy. You only create from reality and from the God energy that is inside you, that the ego child's mind is competing with. You see, more energy is contained in the ego child's mind right now when we have unresolved issues than in the higher self mind. Well, where do you think all that goes when we resolve those issues? In a private session, when we take away, and we're resolving all of that, the energy goes into the spiritual body. That's when we wake up spiritually. You see, that's what eventually leads us to this big surrender I'm talking about, where you know it's all perfect and everything is 100% okay. I wish that for all of you, really, I do. You're going to find it out on your deathbeds a long time from now, but do you realize how dynamic your life could be if you know it now? Wow, how fun. Get to work, okay? So, extreme expectations, fantasy, the way things are. You gotta accept what is. God is in the what is, therefore you are. Everything is here. The value you add, the contribution you make is in the what is. If you're in the expectations, and certainly if you're in the fantasy, you're railing against reality because it doesn't match. It doesn't match, and you won't ever get it to match. I'm going to tell you right now, you won't ever get it to match. Relationships that are built on fantasy do not have the solid ground to last. Some of you have been in those. We want you to realize what happened, so you won't do it again, right? Now, fantasy is a very hard thing to get rid of, and I'll tell you why. And you've got to have help getting rid of it, because you're going to want to keep it. It tells you everything is going to be all right. Fantasy hits the opiate centers of your brain. It is your drug. It's everybody's drug until it's not. And once we attack our own and get rid of it and shatter it and live in reality, you know what? There's a hook. We like people to fantasize about us. And we can't recognize it when they're doing it. And sometimes we do and go, I still like it. That's not healthy. Because you're not going to meet their expectations. You're not going to meet their fantasy ultimately. And vice versa. All right. Number 7. I wonder if I can finish this. 9 minutes to go. Can I? Number 7 is impatience. We complain because we're impatient. I am impatient. Whatever we do fast, and I'm pretty fast mentally and emotionally, we're impatient about it. And we've got to address that. Because we expect, there's an expectation again, our partners to be like us, and they're not. Our partners are individuals. Our partners do it their way. And in the first year or two of marriage, to maybe even 1 to 3 years, you're finding out how different they are from you and what your differences are and the time it takes to do various things. And it challenges your impatience, and it should. These days, I'm very fast with my thought and my emotions. My husband is very fast with his thought and his doingness, and his emotions a third. So if we are having any kind of misunderstanding here, we usually have to say, okay, we won't talk about this for 12 hours or so, and in 12 hours he knows exactly what to talk with me about and how to explain what's been going on in him. And I learned to be very patient with that. I can't do things as fast as he can. Oh my God, I'm not only not fast, let's say in terms of technology, which he's a whiz at, but you could wait forever before I learn something, and I'm trying to learn it. You see? So he's very kind to me and very patient with me, and he'll explain something multiple times to me. I've explained it before, he says, and I say, yes, I know. But he goes on and with a joyful heart does it for me. Maybe his heart isn't so joyful, I don't know. I can't say that. But he's kind about that. We must look at our impatience relative to what they're doing. Are you not letting them be a whole human being and who they really are? Are they not letting you? You need to find out what the timing is here before everything kicks in. Number 8 is people complain because they seek attention. This is only a problem if you are attention hungry. We've talked about the histrionic personality, haven't we? The dramatic personality, the one that wants attention all the time and is always creating a crisis. Come on. That goes on the page, that goes on the screen, that goes in the painting, that goes in the sculpture, that does not go into your life. You can't seek attention that way. What that means is that you're abandoning yourself. Again, I go back to that. You're abandoning yourself. You're not giving yourself the attention that you require. What are you doing? Know yourself better. We did a series of shows on cognitive distortions a while back. I think we did 5 or 6 of those shows. Those are all the ways that you're neglecting yourself, that you're abandoning yourself. If you want to find it, I took that lecture from an article called the 50 cognitive distortions, I think. 50 common cognitive distortions. You can look it up on the internet. So by all means, realize that you cannot abandon yourself. And everybody does to a certain extent. And there are times that you need to challenge that. There should be times that we want more attention from our partners. Michael certainly tells me he needs more attention. I tell him once in a while I need more attention. But guys, that's just once in a while. That isn't all the time. Okay? I am so sorry. There's a call right now, but I've only got 4 more minutes. I am going to that since we have finished what we're talking about. Hi. Is anybody there? I'm talking to 773. Hi there. I've only got about 4 more minutes, but I'm delighted to talk with you. To whom am I speaking?
Joellen, I was just calling to listen.
Oh, okay. Well, hello, Joellen.
Hi.
Hi, darling. We pretty much finished the show today, and I am delighted, though, that you called in. As long as I've got you on the line, is there anything that I can help you with, or would you like to talk about what we've said?
Well, it's interesting that, the whole thing about patience. I am stressed about the election, and so I just try to get positive, loving energy wherever I can. And I feel like, if one side got it, there was going to be gloating, and if another side got it, there was going to be gloating. So I just need positive, loving energy. That's where I logged in.
Joellen, you're wonderful. Thank you so much. And I thank you for bringing up the election. Let's talk about that for just a minute. I think it's wonderful that everybody has a different opinion about things in the world. And this is a time in our evolvement as a world society that we argue. And I want you to realize that argument does eventually lead to new order. It will not during my lifetime. It might not during yours. So we can't be afraid of this kind of argument, this kind of discussion. The world is dividing into 2 camps. It's already started. It started, gosh, I don't know, maybe it started eons ago, but we can really see it now. It's starting between the people that are conscious and the people that are unconscious, the people that are in the present looking ahead and the people that are in the past. That does not mean that that one party does that and one party does not. This is individuals that do this. I'm not talking about parties. We must know concerning politics, however, that they are changeable. Everything is changeable. I read a wonderful article the other day on John Kennedy that said if John Kennedy were alive today, he would be considered probably a conservative and possibly even in the Republican camp. Everything changes. So right now,
What did you mean by?
What, darling?
What did you mean by? What did you mean by that things are changing and it's not going to happen during our lifetime?
The arguments.
90 seconds.
Oh, I have 90 seconds, or then we're going to go off the air. What I mean by that is, and let me explain, and thank you so much for calling in, Joellen. Things are in the argument stage of our evolution. We're all arguing out of our consciousness at the time. And that argument is going to continue for many years. We need to allow it. We need to let it happen. It's part of our evolvement, all this argument of ideologies, this argument of how we go about bringing change, this argument of whether we allow change, this argument about what we believe. It's where we are right now. So if we are upset about it, we need to go down to a deeper level within us, as you said you are trying to do, which is marvelous. So hold that space for the world right now. Let's all do that, okay? And know that we are in the process of change and growth, because that's what this is about. But the arguments are going to continue for a long time, okay?
Okay.
All right, darling, do call back another time because I'm running out of time. God bless you, sweetie. And all of you that are listening in today, we love you. I'll be praying for you right after this show. God bless you now. See you in 2 weeks, I think, because I'm taking next week off. Bye-bye.